Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Emma Lefebvre, and today we are starting another three-part series on how to use complementary or contrasting colors in a floral piece together. And today we are going to start with my favorite combination, orange and blue. So let's jump right in. Okay, so to start, I'm just gonna go through my materials. I'm painting in my Etchr Lab Cold Press Watercolor Sketchbook. I have my Winsor Newton Professional Watercolors on my palette, my Craftamo brush in a size 10 round, water, paper towel, and we're ready to go. Okay, so today we are focusing on the complementary color duo of blue and orange. If you're not familiar with what complementary or contrasting colors are, they are the colors that sit directly across from each other on the color wheel. So today we're working on blue and orange. There's red and green and purple and yellow. So using complementary colors in a painting together can create a beautiful, harmonious kind of vibe. And that is what we are striving to figure out today. But instead of just using straight blue and straight orange, we're gonna play around with color and mixing first to see what kind of blue and orange we wanna go with. So the first part of this exercise, we are going to swatch every blue and orange we can out of our palette, and we're going to create some new shades as well. So first, I'm going to start off with all the blues I have in my palette. I'm going to activate my watercolors first. So all my blues are right there, and my oranges are right there. Okay, so let's swatch all the blues you have. I have French ultramarine, turquoise, cerulean blue, cobalt blue, and indigo. Those are the blues I have that are just straight colors from my palette. Now I'm going to mix some new blues using its secondary colors, so the colors that are right beside it on the color wheel that they mix with to create new colors, or trying to add its complementary color to mute the color. This way you can come up with a whole array of different colors. So let's start with like a bluish green. So I'm gonna grab some sap green here, and really you can make like a ton of different combinations. I'm just gonna grab a ton of my green here. And we're gonna mix some turquoise. So now we have a bluish green. Okay, let's mix some cobalt blue and see what that does with the green. We have a different shade of a bluish green here. Actually, that's pretty nice. It's like a different turquoise. Let's try and mix blues with some purples to get a bluish purple. So here I have some blue in my palette. Let's grab some French ultramarine as well and throw it in there. Then I'm going to grab some purple. So I have some dioxazine purple here. Here's another shade of a blue. Dioxazine purple again with the turquoise. Another shade. There we go. Look at all the different blues we have. All right. And then I'm going to take some orange, which is its complementary or contrasting color, and I'm going to add it to the blues that we have. I'm not going to use it on all the blues, just a couple of them. You could really mix like a billion combinations, but I want to keep it kind of short. So I'm going to grab this cadmium orange and I'm going to mix it with this warm blue. And what that does is it mutes the blue. If you add just a small bit, you don't want to add half and half, because if you use half blue, half orange ratio, you're gonna get brown. Any of these complementary or contrasting color combinations, you mix half and half, you're gonna get brown. But if you have mostly blue, let's say like 3 parts blue, 1 part orange, you're gonna get a muted blue. If you use 3 parts orange, 1 part blue, you're gonna get a muted orange. Okay, so it's just about playing around with it. So here's like a muted blue, which is cool. Now that cadmium orange is pretty bright. I'll show you with like this cadmium red, which is called red, but it has more of an orangey tint to it, what that kind of does. Now that turned brown because that was more half and half. So I'm gonna add more blue and you get this really nice dusty blue. Okay, so keep mixing your colors to see how many different blues you can get. Now we're gonna try and mix different oranges. So let me swatch all the oranges I have in my palette. Really, I just have this cadmium orange, which is like a straight orangey orange, and then the cadmium red, which also has more of an orangier tint to it. But now using the rule of mixing it with its secondary colors, the colors that sit directly beside each other on the color wheel, you're gonna get an orangey red or an orangey yellow. So let's do that as well. Okay, so I'm gonna mix some orange with some red here, which I think is gonna be closer to this cadmium red. And then let's mix it with some yellow. Okay, so these are a bit too vibrant for my liking personally. I would rather dull them down or mute them a bit. So going by our little chart here, we're gonna add, to mute a color, you're just gonna add its contrasting color just a little bit. So I'm gonna take a little bit of this dusty blue and I'm going to add it to this orange. Now this is turning it a bit more brown. Yeah, we turned that one brown, so we need to add a bit more orange. But you can get a pretty nice burnt orange like that. Now, one thing that's not shown on this palette, which is kind of the vibe I think I want to go for, of mixing it with a color that's side by side, pink derives from the color red. It's not on the color wheel, but it's a form of red. And I feel like I want to go for more of like a peachy salmon color orange. So what I'm actually going to do is mix it a little bit with a pink. So I'm going to grab my orange here, and I have some pink here. And I'm going to grab a bit more permanent rose, which is like my go-to pink color. I'm going to swatch it. So that's a bit too red. So I'm going to add a bit more yellow to make it a bit more orangey. So that's really vibrant too. I'm going to lighten it up to get a really nice light kind of peachy salmon color. Might even lighten it up a bit more with a bit more yellow. Okay, I want like a soft peach. So I'm thinking of contrasting my florals with like a light peach and maybe a deep blue combination. Let's just create a little bit more. I like this, but maybe let's see what it would look like muted just a bit. So I'm gonna add a little bit of blue. I'm gonna add a warm blue, which is my ultramarine. I'm gonna add it to this peachy combo, lighten it up a bit, and it's a bit more muted. I don't know if you can tell. Okay, so then once you have all the combinations you can mix, I probably could mix some more, but I'm not going to. You're gonna start deciding which direction you want to go for your painting, which combo between blues and oranges you want to make. So I'm doing this in my sketchbook, so I can't really cut it up. I don't want to cut it up. But if you're doing this on a scrap piece of paper, which is ideal, like a scrap piece of watercolor paper, it's fun to cut up each little square or each little swatch and then place them beside one another to see what color combinations go well, especially if you're a beginner. I'm looking at it right now and I'm seeing a couple combinations that I'm really liking for a piece. I'm really liking this kind of like light peach with this dusty blue color. I'm also liking maybe adding this kind of yellowy orange color. And then you could always add in another more bluey color or a blue-green for some florals. So it's good if you can cut them up and put them side by side, but I'm gonna see if I can re-swatch some of these side by side to see if that's the kind of vibe I wanna go for. So I'm gonna get that dusty blue that's already here. I'm gonna grab that light peach, so I'm just taking off some of that pigment. I like those two colors together. I'm gonna grab a bit more of that cadmium orange is a bit more vibrant. It's a little bit muted. Maybe even make it a little bit more yellow. And then maybe some sort of like green, but I think I wanted a bit more bluey green. So I'm gonna add a bit more blue to this green and see if I like that. Maybe that combination could go well together. I'm also enjoying this blue, which I believe was a little, oops. A little bit, maybe that one. Actually, that's actually similar to that. So it's also good to write down your little mixtures too. I didn't, but it's a good idea too, so you don't forget them. But yeah, once you've picked kind of your color palette that you want to go for, start painting. So that's what we're gonna do now. I'm gonna flip this around. I'm kind of winging it a bit more. I have an idea of which direction I want to go, but it's better if you can cut out those swatches, remember how you mix them or write them down, and then really go for it, and use that as a guide. I should have done that, but I didn't do that. So we're gonna just see how it goes. Okay. So also, one thing I'm gonna mention, I have 2 water jars here. As you can see, one I use for blue, one I use for orange. I did mix a bit of blue in here, which is why it's kind of like a dirty orange. But it's always good to have 2 jars of water so you can mix like your cool colors, which would be your blues in this instance, and your warm colors, which would be your oranges in this instance. So you're not muddying up your colors in between your painting. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with some of this peach, and I think I'm gonna do some dark ones using the full pigment and then some light ones. So let's just go for it. I think I'm gonna do just like some loose petals. I feel like I could add a bit more pink, a bit more yellow. I want it nice and pigmented. So it looks like more pinky, kind of reddish, but it still has that orange undertone, which is what will go nicely with the blue. It's gonna be a nice contrast because it has that orange in it. So here's my first little flower. Then I'm gonna take some of that pigment off. I'm gonna do another flower right beside it and let that darker color kind of bleed into this light flower. Still using the same color, but changing the value of it so it is nice, a nice contrast. See that little bleed right there? That's the kind of stuff I love. And I can even take a little bit more of that darker pigment and add it right into the center here. And then maybe I'll add this like yellowy orange for a third flower right here. Should I do a rose? No, I'm gonna keep it this type of flower. I'm gonna add a bit more red to it to make it a little bit orangier. And if you want a full tutorial on how I do these flowers, just look up my binge watching flower playlist, and there's tons and tons of floral tutorials. Okay, so now that I've put my peaches and my oranges in there, let's make more of that dusty blue. And even though leaves typically are not blue, I am going to make them blue. I'm gonna grab some of that orange. Here we go. So I'm gonna do some leaves coming out. See the contrast and the difference in the colors? I love the way they go together. They just complement each other so well. Hence why they're called complementary colors. Okay. I'm gonna lighten up some of these dusty blue leaves. They don't all have to be super dark. Okay, maybe I'll have some light ones coming up from here. It's a really nice contrast having light and dark leaves. Maybe I'll add a little bit of green. Do some different leaves. But see, it still has that blue tint to it, so it goes really nicely with the orange and the peach. It's a bit of a green blue, but it still goes really nicely. And I'm just changing up the shape of these leaves just a tad. You know, have a little bit of a color bleed there. Cute. I like that. That looks so pretty. I think I like the peach, the pinky peach color more than the bright orange, but it looks really cool. I think I'm going to add some like orange, bright orange berries. You know, wipe out my, maybe use some of the cadmium red and the cadmium orange. We're gonna do some bright orange little buds here. Really pigmented. They're a little bit muted, which I actually like. They have a little bit of blue in them. Okay. Just washing that off. Now there's a lot, I don't know if you can tell, there's quite a lot of pigment in those buds, so I'm just wiping some of it up just so it doesn't have too much of a bleed when I do the stem. Just wiping it off with my brush. Okay, then I think I'm gonna take a smaller brush actually. I'm gonna take my Princeton size 6, has a nice tip. I'm gonna grab this like greenish blue, and I'm just gonna create little stems and little tiny leaves. Sorry if you can hear the construction out there. I don't know when this is gonna end. Hopefully by summer. But there's nothing I can do. Like that. Okay. Let's just try and add some like cobalt blue just for fun. Just keep going. Adding different blues in there. I might add some cobalt blue little leaf stems, like tiny ones. Like that. But we're just going with that blue and orange theme. Like that. So these pieces are all about contrast in shape. Okay, we have bigger leaves, smaller leaves, bigger flowers, smaller little buds. We have dark leaves, light leaves, and then we have our two complementary colors, which make it kind of all tie together. And you can really create a beautiful, harmonious piece doing this. But just play around. I highly suggest you just play around with it because it's honestly just so much fun creating different pieces and just playing and see what works and what doesn't. There we go. And then lastly, I'm just gonna add some sort of stamen. I think I might actually add like a cadmium red, which is mixed with a little bit of cadmium orange for like a long kind of You could always do like a dark blue one too, which would look really nice. But I thought of that after I started doing this, so it's fine. Do some little dots. Maybe even like just yellowy orange, especially on the darker ones. Yeah, I like the yellow. A little bit more of the darker orange on this one. Like that. And there you go. There is your complementary color blue and orange floral piece. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram for even more. Have a great day, guys. Bye.